Where do things stand?
We'll be in court tomorrow.
Summary judgment hearing still tomorrow?
How did everything go, Denny?
Hi, guys.
Go well?
Tensions inside Charlotte's federal courthouse just reached a boiling point after 2 long days of mediation. 2311 Racing, co-owned by Michael Jordan and Denny Hamlin, and Front Row Motorsports failed to reach a settlement with NASCAR in their high-stakes antitrust lawsuit. With no agreement on the table and a trial date fast approaching, the battle over NASCAR's powerful charter system is heating up, and what happens next could change the sport forever. Hopes were high heading into the week. A settlement conference ordered by Judge Kenneth D. Bell had brought all the heavy hitters to the table: Michael Jordan, Denny Hamlin, Bob Jenkins, Jim France, and nearly the entire top brass of NASCAR. They spent 2 full days hammering out arguments behind closed doors. The goal: avoid a trial set to begin December 1st. But by Wednesday afternoon, after more than 16 hours of discussion, the sides emerged from the courtroom tight-lipped. No one spoke to the media. No agreement had been reached. This wasn't the first attempt at mediation either. The same parties met back in August in New York, with legendary sports attorney Jeffrey Mishkin mediating. That too ended without resolution. Now, with no deal on the table, they're hurtling toward a high-profile trial that could reshape NASCAR's future. At the heart of the lawsuit is NASCAR's charter system, the very foundation of how teams earn money and secure race entries. Introduced in 2016, charters are essentially NASCAR's version of a franchise license. Teams who own one of the 36 available charters get guaranteed race entries and a share of the revenue. But here's where things get messy. In September 2024, as the charter agreements were set to expire, NASCAR issued a last-minute take-it-or-leave-it extension offer. 13 of the 15 charter-holding teams signed. 2311 and Front Row didn't. Instead, they filed a federal antitrust lawsuit the following month against both NASCAR and Chairman Jim France. Their claim: that NASCAR has monopolized the sport, leaving teams with no leverage and few alternatives. The teams argue that NASCAR's structure gives it excessive control over key revenue streams, limits teams' ability to negotiate fair terms, and discourages new ownership from entering the sport. By challenging the system in federal court, they're trying to break what they see as an anti-competitive chokehold that's existed for years. This isn't just about dollars and legal technicalities. When Michael Jordan, arguably one of the most influential athletes and businessmen alive, steps into a courtroom, people notice. Jordan's involvement with 2311 has brought massive mainstream attention to NASCAR. He wasn't just present during mediation, he was directly involved. Joining him was Denny Hamlin, his co-owner and active Cup Series driver. Hamlin's dual role as both driver and team executive puts him in a unique position, a direct stakeholder in how the sport operates on and off the track. Their presence alongside team owner Bob Jenkins and top NASCAR officials like Steve Phelps and Mike Helton shows how seriously everyone is taking this dispute. Jordan's entry into NASCAR was heralded as a game-changer. With his brand power and reach, many believed he could be a bridge between traditional stock car fans and a new generation. But now, he's locked in a battle that could determine whether new investors like him feel welcomed or sidelined in the sport. NASCAR hasn't taken this lying down. The organization argued that the lawsuit lacks merit and moved to force an in-court mediation instead of letting the teams handle things with their preferred mediator, Jeffrey Mishkin. Judge Bell offered a compromise. Mediation would happen in his courtroom, with Mishkin still involved but under judicial oversight. Even with that setup, both sessions ended without progress, and with summary judgment hearings scheduled next, Judge Bell has already made it clear he's unlikely to rule in favor of either side before the trial, hoping to avoid influencing the jury. In other words, this is going to court. This lawsuit doesn't just threaten NASCAR's current charter system, it challenges the league's entire business model. If the court finds in favor of 2311 and Front Row, it could force NASCAR to rewrite the rules for how teams are compensated, how charters work, and even how much say teams have in league decisions. And the timing couldn't be worse. NASCAR is currently renegotiating its media rights deal and working to modernize its image. A messy public legal war involving high-profile owners and accusations of monopolistic behavior. That's the last thing they want. In a surprise twist, the Drivers' Advisory Council entered the fray this week. The DAC, led by former driver Jeff Burton, requested permission to file a brief as amicus curiae, a friend of the court, providing third-party insight. Their concern that any deal struck between the parties might harm the rights and influence of drivers. According to their brief, any resolution must protect long-term interests for current and future drivers, ensure drivers have a collective, independent voice, and prioritize the experience of fans above all. The DAC has worked closely with NASCAR since its founding in 2022, but their decision to step in here highlights just how pivotal this case is for the future of the sport. This wasn't your average mediation. The list of attendees reads like a who's who of NASCAR power: Michael Jordan, Denny Hamlin, Curtis Polk, Bob Jenkins, Jim France, Lisa France Kennedy, Steve Phelps, Steve O'Donnell, Mikey Ike Helton, and Ben Kennedy. The gravity of this moment wasn't lost on anyone. Tuesday's session reportedly lasted 8 hours. Wednesday's was equally grueling, split between off-site negotiations and an afternoon back in court. Still, no one budged, while no cameras were allowed inside the mediation rooms. Those familiar with the tone of the sessions described them as intense but professional. Everyone knew what was on the line. With mediation failed and summary judgment arguments on the docket, this case is barreling toward a courtroom showdown. The trial begins December 1st. Legal experts say a settlement could still happen before or even during the trial. But based on the 2 failed attempts at mediation, neither side seems ready to compromise. If it does go to trial, expect fireworks. The proceedings could pull back the curtain on NASCAR's internal operations, including revenue splits, contract structures, and league governance. And with Michael Jordan sitting at the plaintiff's table, the eyes of the sports world will be watching. This all started over 2 years ago when talks began to renew the charter agreement. Teams had pushed for more revenue, longer-term security, and greater influence in NASCAR's decision-making. Negotiations dragged on. Frustrations grew. Then came NASCAR's abrupt final offer in September 2024. Most teams accepted, but 2311 and Front Row pushed back, calling the process one-sided and unfair. Their lawsuit accused NASCAR of monopolizing team access, suppressing competition, and violating antitrust laws. Now that disagreement is on the brink of becoming a full-scale courtroom battle. What happens in this case won't just impact the 3 parties involved. It could set legal precedents affecting every racing league in America. If the court agrees that NASCAR has operated as a monopoly, it could open the door to more team autonomy, revenue-sharing reforms, independent team governance structures, and even greater legal scrutiny over other sports franchises. It also sends a clear message to NASCAR's leadership. The days of unilateral control may be numbered. What began as a contract dispute has evolved into a defining moment for NASCAR. 2311 and Front Row didn't just file a lawsuit, they opened the door to a conversation the sport has long avoided about fairness, structure, and the future of racing. And now, that conversation is heading to court. The clock is ticking, the trial is weeks away, and unless something drastic changes, NASCAR is about to face a legal battle unlike anything it's ever seen. One thing is clear: no matter who wins, the sport will never be the same again.